Greek culture. Due to the warm climate, the Greeks enjoyed and participated in a lot of outdoor activities. Due to the terrain, the Greeks created city-states, or you can relate those to like states like we have in the United States. However, each state is literally its own country instead of a smaller part of a big country. City-states operated much like independent countries. So that's kind of our review there. City-states operated much like independent countries. They were small regions, but they were autonomous from anybody around them. Small countries. Due to the city-states, the Greeks were a civilization, but not an empire. So the Greeks we consider a group of people, a group of different cultures that we just call the ancient Greeks. It was not just one group. The Greeks did share similarities in culture, but politics and military differed by city. Depending on which city-state you were in, or what specific city you were in, you'd see different variations in their leadership that existed there. Here are some of the more popular city-states. Obviously, you've got Sparta, Argos, Corinth, Megara, and Athens. Fairly large cities, known as the bigger city-states. Greek epics. Epics are like major stories, tragedy stories in some cases. So Greek epics, or narrative poems, created heroic deeds and characters. Homer wrote two of the biggest epics. He wrote the Iliad, which is the story of the Trojan War, and the Odyssey. A lot of the information we have about the history of Greece actually comes from these two books written by Homer. Not Homer Simpson, but just Homer. As you'll see in some of our videos, the Greeks were known for building what were known as see if I pronounce this right, the triremes, which were sturdy ships with battering rams in the front. If you look here on the picture, there's a battering ram. They didn't have gunpowder. It didn't make a lot of sense to have spears and bow and arrows at such a long distance, especially in a boat. So what they would do is they would actually ram their enemies with the boat. Those would actually be a steel or a copper tip that they would actually ram the side of their enemy's boats in the attempt to try and sink it. As you can see, there were some sails, but the majority of their horsepower was actually manpower, which made up of dozens of rowers. Greek architecture. The picture you see here is actually a picture of the Parthenon, which is obviously in northern Greece. And if you think about it, and you look around at a lot of cities today, the architecture from the Greeks actually still exists today. Milwaukee, for example, at the county courthouse, is a very similar replica to some Greek architecture. The White House, similar to to Greek architecture. Even the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., the front facade looks very similar to some Greek architecture. And if you look here with these three youngsters, you see the modern-day Parthenon. This is actually an art museum in Nashville, Tennessee. My family and I visited this past summer. The Greeks and early culture. Greeks would pioneer democracy, philosophy, warfare, and architecture. The Greeks would fight many battles against the superpowers of the time, specifically the Persians, which we'll get into later. Alexander the Great would blend Greek, Persian, and Egyptian culture as he conquered much of Southwest Asia. Alexander the Great was a monster when it came to his ambitions for success and domination of the world. He ended up taking over most of Europe and as far east as India. And we'll talk more about him in future lessons. Once again, These are our introductory notes. They went along with our Lecture 1 notes. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Mr. Vincent. I'll be happy to take any questions you have. If you did miss any questions, again, feel free to rewind this lesson and pick up any information you might have missed. Thank you very much, and I hope you got a lot out of it.